Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. This is an extra special episode for our listeners. Not only is this our 300th episode, so we have been doing this podcast for around 6 years now. Today's guest is probably the most famous guest that we have had on previously. He is a 5th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is the head coach of Zenith in Las Vegas. He's a multiple-time ADCC veteran, world champion. He is an amazing guy. We are really hanging out, and that is why we have brought for you today Robert Drysdale. Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. And yeah, it's good to be here.
Thanks for coming in, Rob. Just a couple of things straight off the top for me, mate. Every time we come over to Las Vegas and we go to World Masters, we always come and train with you at your gym. And then we always see you at competition and you're running around and you're helping. You must be one of the most giving coaches that I have seen. You dedicate not only your time to your students, but like if I walk up and I say hello, you stop conversations with people and say hello. You come and train or help coach our coach, Lincoln. So just off the top, mate, thank you for the work and the time that you put into us as people coming over to compete. Because I think sometimes you do these things and you don't get thanked correctly, or it's just really briefly. So, mate, sincerely, thank you for what you do for us, mate, when we are there. I truly appreciate it.
No, thank you for saying that. It's a pleasure. I love what I do. I don't mind doing it. I really appreciate you saying that because, it's probably the most common complaint I get from people in my circles that I don't do enough. I get that complaint a lot. I don't do enough. And I don't know how to say no to people. It's a character flaw. So I'm always like saying yes and yes. So I give myself more and more and more until I have enough. And then and then something explodes at some point because you can't, it's not a sustainable relationship, when people expect you to give more than you already give. And I take time away from my kids, time away from my personal life, and you're giving this, you're doing it out of love, out of friendship. I don't get paid to coach. People don't realize this. Oh, it's your job. No, it isn't. My job is to keep the doors open, teach class, keep the air conditioning running, keep the bathrooms going. But when I coach on weekends and I'm on my feet for 12 hours a day, 3 days straight, that is not of love. That is not my job. I do it because I love it. And I love doing it. But when people take it for granted, I get very, very upset because you're taking away my life for granted, like my time, my energy. That is more valuable than money to me. I would rather you steal my money than steal my time because I can make money. I cannot get my time back. So when I take time away from my own, for myself or for my children to give to someone, I appreciate it when it's acknowledged. And that's all I want. I don't want any other payment other than the acknowledgement and a level of gratitude. That's all a coach really wants. We don't do this for money. We do this because we want to see our students excel. So I appreciate you saying that.
As a coach, Rob, what are the qualities that you think go into making a good coach? If you could list them off.
I think you got to care. You got to care. You have to, look at human material and go, I want to make something out of this, something more, something better, right? You see, and you have to do this, of course, and there's a saying in Portuguese in Brazil where everyone loves a beautiful child. And what they mean by that is every coach loves the gifted kid. But as coaches, that doesn't seem right to me that you give yourself to the gifted child because they could be a world champion one day. And sometimes the kid that needs you the most doesn't get any attention. And I think because we're human, we all have a bias. We all have a tendency to give more to the people wherever we happen to see the talent, right? But I don't think that's a good job. I think a good coach is going to spread his energy evenly, and like, oh, but I'm famous now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. You're just another number on the mats. You're another link in the chain. And a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. As a team member, as a team player, you ought to be putting your energy in helping me strengthen that weakest link, not being, oh, I am the center of the universe. Why don't you give me all the time and attention in the world? Why are you wasting your time on this white belt over here? I'm like, well, that white belt needs jujitsu as much as you. So to me, it's a matter of social responsibility and even citizenship to you know look at your students not as a number, not as a means to an end, aggrandizing yourself politically and making sure you show your face on full grappling because you want to have famous students. There's something cowardly about that. To me as a coach, you should embrace the difficult students and try to make champions out of nothing because it takes no skill, it takes no heart to make a champion out of a champion. You get John Jones walks in my gym and says, "Robert, I want to be a BJJ world champion." Oh shit, anyone can do that. You don't need me. Any blue belt can do that. You know, but it's getting the kid that can't make eye contact, that's extremely insecure, that gets bullied, that had no coordination because he's never done any sports, and getting that kid on an IBJJF podium one day, even if it's a blue belt level. I think that's a miracle, man. And like that's the miracle I'm after because I think that has a greater impact on people and like on people's lives. And as a coach, I feel more fulfilled. I know it's not a metric we typically look at, but I take great pride in doing that. I take great pride because I know how it's much harder. It's the harder course as a coach. But I think that's the measure of what a good coach is caring for the ones that aren't going to give you anything in return as much as for the ones that will give you something in return.
For that kid who comes in, or for that person that comes in and they are struggling with coordination and confidence and all those sorts of things, as somebody, as a coach, Rob, just to see them in 6 months walk in and then introduce himself to the new person walking on the mat. I think those are the things as a coach or, as a student that I think we need to embrace more, like the podiums and those sorts of things and the people who compete, like it's fantastic. But uh, I think jiu-jitsu does two things, right? For me, it'll either save your life and it'll change your life. It'll do one or the other. And,
Yeah.
and I think it never saved my life. Like I've always had a great life and I've been lucky with that, but it's definitely changed my life. And I think for those people who struggle to make eye contact, who have no coordination, who have been picked on and bullied, and, the confidence that something like this can give you, but also the person that you are, Rob, where you see that person and all you want to do is make them stronger. I think that's where, for me, you come into your own.
Yeah. It's funny. It's a very good point you make. Someone, I think it was Jamie, someone was asking me this question yesterday. I can't remember who it was. It's like, what keeps me going? What motivates me? Like, what's my relationship to jujitsu? And my answer was, it goes to your point, is like, it's been changing. Like, it's very strange. Like, when I started at 16. I wanted to be respected, for whatever, because I used to get in fights a lot, being an American child in Brazil, I got picked on a lot. So I wanted to be respected. That was the identity. Like, being a hooligan sounded appealing to me as a 16-year-old. Being a champion, wearing a jiu-jitsu shirt, that meant that people weren't going to mess with me. So that was what I was after. I'm not proud of that, but when you're 16, I suppose you're forgiven for wanting to be respected and trying to assert yourself as a young male. Um, in time, I wanted medals. That was the big most of my career there. Is like, I got to get these medals. I got to be the best. I got to be the best. I got to win IBJJF. I got to win ADCC, and then I got to win the UFC. And that was a matter of life or death to me. And then you retire, and then it's sort of like a life crisis. Retirement is not an easy thing. You think of you're like Superman in the gym. One day you lose your cape. The next day you lose your X-ray vision. The next day you lose your ability to fly and dodge bullets and all that. And like, oh shit, I'm human again. And that's fine. So I'm going to put my heart and soul into coaching because now I can change people's lives. And my first relationship with coaching was I wanted to train champions, and I know how to do that, man. I've trained people up from the bottom up all the way to the highest level. But it's a very it's just a shitty job to deal with these people, man. So my relationship is changing, and now I feel like I haven't mastered this, but I feel like I'm going through this change. I'm to the point where you're saying is I just want to have a positive impact on people's lives. And I think that's the purpose of jiu-jitsu. Man, I asked this question a whole bunch in my new book, and like, what is the purpose of jiu-jitsu? Because to me, it was, it's growth, it's self-improvement. If that means a medal, then so be it. But more than that, beyond improvement, man, and this is where like some of my previous arguments and some of the battles I've had with people over the years, where it was all about performance. To me, performance was everything. Now I go, man, if I can get 30 people on the mats every day having a good laugh after practice, a break from perhaps a shitty life that they hate, but they go to the gym and they feel better. If I can help a veteran that suffers from PTSD, a child with autism, or some girl that's been a victim of male abuse or anything like that, if I can bring some joy through jiu-jitsu into their life, that's very rewarding. And it's if I told you I'm there yet, I would be lying. I'm not, but it's where I feel like I'm moving towards as I get older. And um, I call it looking at jiu-jitsu as an end in itself, and not as a means to an end. So I'm not trying to get anything out of it for myself, but I'm enjoying jiu-jitsu as a tool for others more than for myself, giving back, giving to others some of the experience and some of the lessons that I learned through jiu-jitsu. And I feel like that's the next chapter in my life as I move away from my professional career. And I still love competition, though. I don't think that's ever going to go away, but I think I'm more accepting that not everyone goes into the gym trying to perform. I think it's okay that a lot of people go in there simply trying to be, trying to have a good time and have a laugh after a hard day's work. And that's where I'm going now.
You mentioned your new book. I don't have a copy of that with me, but I have a copy of your previous book, Opening the Closing, and highly recommend to any of our listeners who have not already read this book. It's basically like a history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was quite excited after reading that when I believe there was a movie coming out. Can you tell us anything about that? What's happening with the movie? And tell us a bit about the book. It was quite controversial. It's if you don't mind me saying, I guess alienated you a little bit in the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's been a bit of fallout? Happy to talk about that.
Yeah. With the book, I mean, the documentary, it was a product of retirement. I don't know if it was boredom or just I feel like I'm motivated by challenges. I have to have an obstacle in front of me all the time, like a mountain for me to climb, like something. Like it's what keeps me going, and like it's very important to me that I have some kind of goal in front of me. And I know nothing about film or documentaries except that I like to watch them. That's as much as I know about film. Okay, so. But we put a crew together, and it was we have like the footage we have cannot be redone. No one can redo what we have. It just can't be done because we have 4K footage of essentially the very first BJJ practitioners, the very first, students of the great original Gracie Academy. And these men are all in their 80s and 90s. Most of them have passed in the past 5 years. We caught them at the very end of their lives, and they were very open in their interviews. They were very sincere, and they're like, one of them even said, "Look, I'm getting old, so I'll tell you guys everything." They're not holding back, put it like that. So what we have is something very, very unique, and it can be written. With that being said, it's been a difficult production. I don't want to get into details now. I can say that, we have made some progress. It's been like some sticky legal issues, and these things are slow. And I think it's hurt me a lot because I don't know if people think I've pocketed the money. I don't know if people think that I don't know, but like, my relationship with the jiu-jitsu community has been very strange since this documentary because a lot of people don't like me for what I say and what I said in the book, or feeling that, oh, I'm screwing someone over with this or whatever the case. But I knew I was walking into this when I started. I don't mind. Here's the thing, and I was never trying to be liked. I'm not a politician. A politician needs to be liked because he needs votes. He doesn't need to have principles. He doesn't need to believe in anything. He doesn't need to follow his ideals. Like, a politician's got to do what he's got to do to win elections, right? That's your average jiu-jitsu, a person online. Like, they're trying to get an audience. They're going to go which way the wind is blowing, and and I kind of didn't care. Like, to me, it was more like, I want to be right. And if people like me, great. And if they don't, they don't. So needless to say, that had, dual effect. Some people are going to like you. Some people are going to hate you. And I'm okay with that because the people who hate me, they're not in my life. The people that don't like me, they're not in my life. They don't affect me directly. Of course, this closes doors because if my name comes up, people go, you don't want to be, associated with that guy because, X, Y, and Z. But on the other hand, a lot of doors opened in where I met people that are some of my best friends now, friends that had been looking for them my whole life, and I just never met them, and I met them through the book. I exchange emails with them daily now, like people that from all over the world, people that wrote me. We share books in common. We have share authors and ideas and worldviews. And I'm like, man, you're the friend I've been looking for my whole life. And I met these people because of the book. So that's my treasure. I say this all the time. Like, it's nice that the book sells. The book, I think between the first and the second one, I think we just passed over 15,000 copies sold,
Mhm.
which is considering I'm self-published. Like, and that I had zero marketing assistance. This is word of mouth. That's 15,000 copies of word of mouth, essentially. I think that's really good. I talk to people in the book industries. I do. That's incredible. Like, you did it with no marketing. So I think it's a good quality book. I think they're well written. I think my second book is my best book, The Rise and Evolution of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think the other two I just came out with, I think they're good books as well, but they complete the story, and I'm very proud of these. I'm more proud of these books than I am of my ADCC title. I'm more proud of these books than I am my IBJJF world title because I think they're more important. Um, so I'm okay with the consequences. I think the tide is turning. I think now that more and more people have read the books, like, oh, Robert wasn't attacking the Gracie family. He wasn't doing anything. He was, the way I explain this to people is you wouldn't judge someone on the color of their skin. That would be absurd. You wouldn't judge them on their sexuality. You wouldn't judge them on their religion. You wouldn't judge them on their gender, right? Everyone agrees to this. Why would you judge them on their surname or nationality? You wouldn't do that. You're applying the same standard. Like, you just don't. You're not. I'm not looking at these things. I don't care if you were born north or south of the equator. It doesn't mean anything to me. I want to tell history as best I can, but in a politicized world, of course, this is going to upset some people.
I think you're the first person to walk through the door, Rob, and I think that's probably why you cop so much flack for it, why you got so much shit for it. But now you look at, people posting things like there's a YouTube video that's out, and they're more or less agreeing with the history as you told it, in your
Yeah.
book. So, and just on that, I also have the book just above. So I also love the book, but I actually also got the audio book because I found all the names in there so bloody hard to pronounce, mate. That the audio book for me was genius. So I've
Yeah.
actually got both, mate. So if you are
Yeah.
wondering, and if you have an Audible subscription or something like that, get the Audible book as well because get both. But I found the Audible really good. So yeah, I sort of think that you've walked through that door, and then maybe it's just opened people's eyes. Maybe being an historian like you are, people have actually looked further into the research, and now they can kind of make these calls for themselves as well. So I think you sort of kicked the
Yeah.
door open so people can look further into it.
No, I thank you for the compliment. Although there's, to be fair, to be accurate, the guy who really kicked the door open is a guy called Roberto Pedreira. I always say I don't mind giving myself credit for adding something to this story, and I think I did. But as far as the research goes, like, he was a big inspiration. He's the one who kicked the door open, and he kicked it wide open and walked away. Like, you're not going to find an interview on the guy online. He did the heavy lifting in terms of research and walked away. And I think that's a very honorable thing to do. But at the same time, if perhaps if someone doesn't, if I don't do like podcasts, like, who's going to read about it? People, at some point, you got to get stories, got to get out there as well. I'm not one to market. I hate marketing, but a little marketing is necessary. And I think my books, in some ways, I don't say they complement his books. That's not the word, but I think they add something to the story, and I think they're more palatable because they're less fact heavy. They're not a heavy. I don't think my books are heavy reads. I think they're very, very easy reads, and they could potentially, even people that don't like to read tell me, like, Rob, I actually really enjoyed reading your book, and I don't have the habit of reading. So I'm like, oh, good. That was my goal.
Yeah.
My goal was to reach people that don't like to read. And so yeah, I think I played a role in getting this story out there, and I think it's important. It's not an irrelevant thing to know your history. Like, oh, it's just a curiosity. It's way more than a curiosity. This has to do with identity. It has to do with character and ethics. It has to do with future. It has to do with citizenship and the next generation of children who are responsible for it. There's a lot of things here that we learn from history. It's not just, oh, I'm just satisfying my curiosity. I have Google. I'm good to go, which is how a lot of young people feel about it. They don't feel the reading is necessary. I got Google, and I yeah, I don't like that. I think people, you're gonna have to get your hands dirty and have a minimal understanding of what it is that you practice. Yeah.
That's the history of what something we often ask our guests, and it'd be really great to hear your opinion of it. What do you think is next for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? We've sort of seen the leg entanglement game sort of pick up, a lot more no-gi over the last sort of 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Where do you think the future is headed?
I just want to forgive me if I'm trying to sell my books here, but
Please,
they
man.
are
Please.
about this. I have a copy here for you, Jamie. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, please.
So this book is about this essentially. Like what is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu today?
Yeah.
I approach this topic extensively, and I mean, they say that every historian wants to be a medium of time. The bad thing is, like, you want to start telling the future. And it's very tempting not to, because you start seeing cycles and you start seeing patterns and you start seeing, well, this has happened before. We kind of have an idea where we're going. I think it's already clear what's happening. Like, there is a split. It is a no-gi slash submission only slash American Jiu-Jitsu slash professional scene on one end. And the other one is more gi oriented. That is also no gi, but it is more no gi oriented. It has a wider demographic, from children to women to older men. It is point oriented. It is more amateur oriented. Um, and they're very different worlds. One world wants to sell tickets or die trying. Like, selling tickets is what's important. Getting paid. That it's a very show business model. It is filled with young males, right? So it has a lot of the best athletes because it is drawing the young males. It is very hostile to other demographics. It is very hostile to order. It is very hostile to respect and hierarchy. It is very hostile to anything that doesn't get you paid. That's not the kind of environment I want to raise my children in. And I was fortunate enough to be a young male and competitive young male in my prime, while I skipped all that, fortunately. And some people say, wouldn't it have been better had you gotten paid? And I'm like, not at that cost. Because if I have to be Conor McGregor to get paid, I'd rather be poor. Personally, I'm okay with that, man. I made enough. I make enough doing what I'm doing without ever disrespecting anyone.
Yeah.
I do it without acting like a jackass online. I do it without being a horrible example to younger generations. I did it without the antics. I did it on the strength of my own legs through merit. I trained hard. I have arthritis all over my body for a reason. It's not because, I was going easy. I'm proud of that. And I think most people in my generation would feel the same way. But I think the competitive scene is taking a life of its own. And the funny thing is, I don't even think the best grapplers in the world are in it. I think the best grapplers in the world are in the amateur scene. And if you look at ADCC champions, I think or the podiums, I say this all the time. If you look at podiums from 1998 to 2024, every single ADCC edition, I would say my guess is like 95% of them are coming from the IBJJF league, which is amateur. The vast majority of high-level BJJ competitors are coming from outside of the IBJJF league. That's not a coincidence. So the professional scene, for all its flair and antics, is not producing champions. They are getting the champions from the IBJJF league. So everyone knows where the champions are being bred. And then you get the Instagram type, the people that talk their way into professional fights, but they don't do that well. They get a lot of followers, they get paid, but if you watch their performance, they don't win. They don't win at the high level. They're not, the people who are winning, they're coming from the same places. So when my students ask me, Rob, I want to be a champion, what do I do? It's very simple. You follow this pathway. You do what all the other champions have done, with very few exceptions. There are a handful of exceptions in the history of ADCC of people who have been on that podium that were not raised inside the IBJJF league. So when people ask me who's responsible for BJJ's technical innovation, like this, there's no question. There is no question who's responsible for the evolution of this sport. It's the IBJJF. It's not by themselves, but by far the highest level league and most consistent high level tournaments for 30 years. Like no one comes close. No one has had high level tournaments that consistently as them. So that's where the champions are coming out of. The professional scene feeds off of that league. That's where the innovation is coming from. That's where the high level athletes are mostly coming from, right? And the vast majority of them. So I think, but that's the split. You're going to have a professional scene that feeds off of the amateur league, like in other amateur and professional sports. You know what's funny? I never understood why Jigoro Kano was against professional judo. And why? Like professional is better than amateur. Why would you be against it? And now I totally get it. I stand with amateur sport. I never thought I'd say that, but I think amateur sport is a superior model. I don't think professionalization is that great of a thing, and it benefits half a dozen people, and it has a very negative effect on millions. So half a dozen people make money, and it has a negative effect on an entire generation of children. How are you going to tell me that's a good equation? Like, no one's going to convince me that it's better. Better for who? For you? Okay, from your perspective as an individual, but collectively as a community, this is I think it's negative. I think it's more. The other one, no one needs professional jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu does not need professional matches to grow. It's been doing just fine. Like, oh, we got to bring more eyes to the sport. You know who's watching jiu-jitsu? The people who train jiu-jitsu, me and you, who've been brought in through gyms, small level tournaments, like people that fall in love with the community. It's that community that makes the community grow. If professional matches disappear tomorrow, it would make absolutely no difference to jiu-jitsu. The sport will keep growing exactly as it has always been. It never had professional jiu-jitsu, and it's never stopped growing. So that's where I stand, but that's where I see the divide. There's definitely a split there, and I think long term, the IBJJF gi amateur model is a model because it will embrace all demographics and all age groups, something that professional jiu-jitsu cannot do.
Yeah.
So, Rob, sorry to interrupt, Britos. Just on that, I mean, so what would you say? What would your advice
I
be as a
agree, mate.
coach?
And I think for me, one of the things that I kind of equate it to, it's like in the 80s, like in the 1980s, when you had like the wrestling, like the professional wrestling, how big that was. But I think it kind of killed the amateur scene in some ways, and then the 80s wrestling or 90s wrestling just goes so over the top, and then it can be detrimental to the people who are actually, enjoying the sport just for the sport's sake. So I wonder if it hasn't already, does the professional league of jiu-jitsu just become a show? Does it just become entertainment, or is it there already?
That's a good question. I have a draft of a book that I'm working on, and the very first chapter in the rise and evolution of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is from circus show to the reality of combat. And the first chapter in this new book is from the reality of combat to the circus, because we've gone full circle now. And it's a tendency, because once you have reality, you gain credibility. Credibility leads to interest and popularity, which leads to monetization, which leads to corruption, which leads to sell tickets at any cost. Now you have, we're next we have mud wrestling, people in bikinis and mud wrestling. Like I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it doesn't stop once you go down that route where the purpose of the art is to entertain. Right? There's no ends, because you can never entertain less.
Yeah.
It's like a dose of a drug. You can't like, oh, I'm going to entertain you. I'm going to give you a dose of the drug here, and then the next week I'm going to give you a smaller one. It doesn't work that way. You need a bigger round of applause. You need a bigger dose of the drug. And once you're going down that road, you're already down it's something it's very hard to recover from. And it happened to pro wrestling. It happened to catch wrestling. I mean, everything we're doing, catch wrestlers did first. FYI, there's nothing new about what we're doing. Catch wrestlers did it before judo. They did it way before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, different rules set, like different evolutionary tracks. They're not identical, sure. But my point is, and this is in Pedreiro's book, one of them, and this is one of the most astonishing things I read in his most recent books. But in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, these catch wrestling, submission wrestling events, they were not fake. They were real wrestling, grappling matches with submissions. They would fill up arenas in California with over 10,000 spectators, 10,000 spectator arena during the Great Depression, with prize purses north of $48,000 in today's money.
Oh, right.
That is bigger. That is a bigger grappling scene than today.
Yeah.
In the 1930s during the Great Depression. That's how big these events were in the 1930s. Now, at some point, these roaches of promoters, they're roaches, they're vultures. They don't care about the art. They were doing something else that was profitable, and then they get a cent for money, and they go, ha, we can monetize this, and they come in and they ruin everything. Because now it's not about the art anymore. They don't give a shit about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's like, how can I monetize this? I like it. I can monetize it. So these guys come over and they go, we got to bring more flair. Let's get some fireworks here. It starts with fireworks. And from fireworks, you go to, okay, we need some hot girls in here. Okay, so now you got to sexualize it as well. Okay, you know what? We got to get more. And it just doesn't stop. And it doesn't stop. Next thing, what they figured out eventually was that the best way to sell tickets was to have fake matches, because real matches are hard. They're technical. It requires education. It requires someone that has a deep understanding of the sport to understand what is happening when Cobrinha fights Rafael Mendes.
Yeah.
Even most practitioners don't understand what's happening. So a very high level match, the more high level it is, the more intricate it becomes.
And the less
As a
showy
result,
it is, Rob. And the less showy it is.
and the less showy, and even though it's a very high level. So as a result, for how do you bring grandma in? Well, you got to bring in the drama. And they figured out that fake matches was the way to bring that in. So what was a legitimate submission wrestling circuit in the 1930s descended into what we call fake wrestling now, pro wrestling. And I'm not saying that that's what it is going to happen to BJJ. What I am saying is that entertainment route has that characteristic to it. It is decadent in that sense. And it's just one of the reasons why I'm against it. It's not the only reason why. I'm not against it per se. I watch it. My students participate in it. I just don't think it's the best course for jiu-jitsu. There are other things we should be paying attention to.
What would your advice be to a 19-year-old, say, blue or purple belt that came to you that is, he's on the cusp of greatness and, he's looking at going down that professional route because, he's still a relatively young kid and he can, really see a future in jiu-jitsu for him. Or would you say, no, go to school, just keep training kind of almost like part-time, or what would you say?
I think people should work and go to school, one or the other at least. Like when I won ADCC, I was running a gym. I was going to college. The same year I won ADCC, I graduated college. Like Amy Campo won ADCC, 3 years ago. She was going to college, I believe. She had a part-time job and she was training. Like I think it's doable. I think people shouldn't just put 100% into jiu-jitsu and not work or not study. I think that's somewhat irresponsible. I think working is part of life. Even if it's a part-time job, you got to do something. I think education is a must, regardless of a degree, regardless of finances. You should educate yourself for the same reason you should work out. You work out to be healthy. You read and you study to make your mind healthy. A mind that is not studying is an unhealthy mind. You need to be studying. You're never done learning. Why would you stop learning? Why would you not want to sharpen your mind? Like it's the most important. It's what distinguishes you from the animal kingdom. Why would you neglect the most, the most human characteristic you have, which is your cognitive ability? And you're going to say, no, I'm going to keep this atrophied here because I am just going to indulge myself with Netflix and Instagram. And I'm like, there's no training going on in your brain. It's not improving. It's just so I think these things are important regardless. But to your question, um, I think you have to surround yourself with good people, people that help you believe. Because I always suffered from self-doubt. I was never a confident individual. I was that guy going to bed at 5 a.m. to wake up at 7 to go to a tournament. I was shitting my pants every single time from my very first match to my last MMA fight. I was terrified. I remember my MMA fights. I was like, I'm not proud of saying this, but it's the truth. I was like hoping to get injured the week of the fight. Like inside, like I was like, I hope I get injured this week. Because if I got injured, I didn't have to fight, you know? And so I never overcame that. But one thing that helped me more than anything was being around the right people. I felt that when I had the right people around me, I excelled. Like, because when I was doubting myself, those people would just look at me. Sometimes they would say something, and that it would change it would just fill me up with confidence. Like sometimes someone you love and someone you trust says something to you, and they're saying it for real. They're not lying. They're saying it's from the heart. I would feel very encouraged. I remember when I was a purple belt, like I had won state championships in São Paulo. So like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Worlds, but I'm probably not gonna win. That was my mindset. I'm gonna put up a fight, but I don't think I wasn't even thinking about winning. And my best friend who doesn't even train jiu-jitsu, my best friend in Brazil, he doesn't even train, but he was always following me and he knew how important it was to me. And one day he walked up to me and said, "Man, I think you're gonna win, man. I think you're gonna win world championship." And I'm like, "It's a purple belt, and I'm like, when he said that, for some reason that stuck with me, and that filled me with so much confidence because he was my best friend and he believed in me. So like I was fighting with him. I wasn't fighting alone. He was with me. And it just filled me with courage. And I won that year. I won that year, and it was I'm not saying I won because of him, but sometimes we're doubting ourselves. Sometimes there's a little voice in the back of your head saying you can't do things. And that little voice is your enemy. It's stopping you from doing what you want to do. It's not your opponent. It's not the Brazilian referee, man. It's not the rule set. It's that little voice. And if you're surrounding yourself with the right people, they lift you up. It's very important. I'm big on this. I'm big on this because it does make a difference. Sometimes you get the guy that's excessively confident. You got guys like Conor McGregor, like Gordon Ryan. They walk in there, you just sense their confidence. This guy believes in himself, and I think that's a very powerful thing. Like some people have, like John Jones, like they say he drinks the night before the fight. I don't know how true that is, but like, it's believable. He's that gifted. It's like, how could you not be that confident when you're that good? I was not that guy. My confidence was a work in progress. Like I had to work on it, and people, the right people around me were important, which is one reason why I'm big on loyalty and camaraderie and family and community. And I say this all the time. Those Dagestani guys, that's their secret. No one's going to convince me otherwise. You think they know something I don't? That's not it. You think they know? You think they know something we don't? That's not it. Well, in the age of the internet, what is it that they know that we don't? You think it's their methodology? We know what it is. It's just hard work, right? What is it that they have? Is it genetics? I don't think that's it either. What is it? What is it that? Why do they excel? It's a small place, and they excel at everything they do. Every martial art they put their finger on, they excel at. They take their loyalty very, very seriously because of this. Because when they fight, when those guys fight, and I see that because I watch these guys and I deeply admire them for what they stand for. I watch these guys and I go, and how they speak of one another and how they treat one another and how they are with each other. And I'm like, when Islam Makhachev steps into that cage, he's never fighting alone. He never feels lonely and he never doubts himself because he's walking in there with an entire country behind him. He is walking in there with an entire religion, an entire ethnic group behind him. And they believe that shit. And they take it very, very seriously. And I strongly believe that is the key ingredient. And we in the West, we go, I am the center of the universe. I don't need anyone. I'm an independent person. I'm going to go over there because I can get more followers in this gym than I'm going to get over here. Oh, we have all the UFC matchmakers working out at this gym. Oh, if I become friends with the UFC matchmakers, maybe I can get into UFC and cut the line. I don't have to climb Mount Everest like everyone else. I can be friends with the right people. You see the mentality? And then he's like, oh, I got to do what's best for me. Okay, see how far you make it with that mentality. They don't make it. They don't make it. You understand? They just get followers. Well, sure, that's what you're fighting for. But you're never gonna be. You're never gonna be great. You're never gonna be Islam. You're never gonna be, John Jones. You're never gonna be GSP. You're never gonna be one of those guys. You're never gonna be Bushesha because you got the wrong values. You got the wrong mindset. And you're selfish. That's my philosophy.
Do you know what the tall poppy syndrome is? Have you heard of that?
I've heard it before. You're gonna have to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
What
It's a
the
bit of
what's
an Australian thing, I guess, more than
Yeah,
a.
it's an Australian New Zealand thing, right? Like, so the tall poppy syndrome is like when you're good, everybody cuts you down because they don't really
yeah,
want you to succeed.
yeah.
Whereas in the places and the people that you're talking about, like for somebody to be successful at your gym, everybody's behind them. Everybody wants them to succeed, right? Whereas in New Zealand and Australia, we'd be like, hey, Rob, you're getting a bit too fucking big for your britches there, mate. We just got to pull you back a little bit, rein you back in a little bit, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's also one of those things that we down here need to be really, really careful of, that when people are succeeding and they are doing well, that we continue to support them as opposed to this tall poppy syndrome where we cut them down, right? So I think that's also something, down under, as we say, that we
Yeah.
need to be really careful of.
In the US, they say crabs in a barrel. The crabs are in a barrel.
Yeah,
When one crab is trying to crawl out, the other one's pulling him down. It's like
yeah,
that's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Same thing. Um, it's I don't know if I've ever had that mentality. Maybe I have, and I'm unaware of it. Could be. But I'll say this, man. Every time I see someone that's more successful than me at anything, unless it's something I despise, like I don't think much of drug dealers. I don't think much of criminals in general, politicians. I don't think much of these people. I just don't. So I don't admire them. But if I see someone that does something I deeply admire, let's say jujitsu, when I see someone like Marcos Buchecha, who's a 13-time world champion, or Roger Gracie, right, who's to me the most dominant competitor of all time, I never feel jealous of the guy.
Yeah.
I always feel happy for him, and every time they win, I'm happy for them
Yeah.
because I feel they represent jujitsu. I think they represent jujitsu well, and I see these guys walk past me sometimes, and I go, "Holy shit, man!" He's 30. I got one IBJJF black belt world title. It was very hard. I strongly believe, had it not been for Roger, I would have had three because I lost two finals to him.
Yeah,
Okay, if
yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't for
yeah.
him, I would have had three. But every time I see the guy, I'm like, I'm not jealous, man. I'm like, I'm happy for him. Like it's good that jiu-jitsu has a guy that's that great, and I'm happy for him because at the end of the day, man, like he's a good representative of the sport. Like I think he's a good, his public figure. I don't know him personally, but his public figure is a good one. So, I don't understand people that have that negative mentality where they want people to fail, man. Like I don't think I have that because when I see people that have done more than me, I literally I get starstruck, man. I'm like a fanboy sometimes. I see these guys, like I fan out, and I'm like deeply admiring of what they've done. I know how hard it is, so I admire it.
I was feeling a little bit starstruck before we came on, Rob. So thank you. I'm very grateful for your down to earth nature, and thank you so much. Did you have any last questions, Brentos, that you haven't yet asked? You had a list of questions. You said.
Oh, I literally have a page full of questions, and I never do this. Yeah, I've got one more question, and you can take as much time on this question as you would like, Rob. What have you learnt from writing?
Like I never thought I had in the back of my mind, I thought that one day I would write a book about jiu-jitsu, but I was thinking methodology or training. The history thing was sort of like a side effect because I always liked the humanities. My passion for the humanities has always coexisted with my passion for jiu-jitsu. But I learned that I love to write. That was the biggest thing that I took from this. I learned that I'm very happy when I'm writing. That's probably when I'm happiest these days, is a cup of coffee in hand in front of a computer, like I'm sitting in front of a computer right now. Oh, I got a Sunday off. I got nothing going on today. No students, no tournaments, no kids, no phone calls. It's just me and a laptop and a cup of coffee. That's like perfect day, man. Like I'm very, very happy. I learned that I love it, and I hope I continue this and I do this till the day I die because I deeply love it. It's a sort of exercise in self-reflection too because you start spotting your own contradictions. The thing about writing is you write down your ideas and then you got to reread what you just wrote and you start realizing it doesn't always make sense. Some of your ideas are either irrational or incorrect, or you're not being very coherent about your ideas, but you stand by them and you live your life, and then you start analyzing it critically and you're like, oh, I got to change how I think, or you advance that thought and you go somewhere else with it. But it's an act of thinking, a deep thinking, and I think that's important. I enjoy it. To me, it doesn't feel like a chore to do this. I consider it pleasurable. Like it's something that to me it brings me joy to sit in front of a computer and try to get my thoughts out. I just wish I had more time to do it. And the problem with it is that it's very time consuming. I can't get anything decent on paper in less than 2 hours. It takes me 2 hours just to get my mind settled
Yeah.
and quieted down. And that's hoping I have no other problems or anxieties or anything else in the world bothering me, because these things pull me out of my creative zone into the bullshit of the world.
Yeah.
And how can I write something decent if I'm being pulled back into some parent that doesn't understand why I'm not at every single tournament coaching his 10-year-old white belt son, like these things stress me out, so you have to be at peace. But I learned, to answer your question, I learned that I love it. And I think I hope to be writing until the day I die.
Well, thank you for sitting in front of the computer with us. I know we did talk about trying to do this in person, but the logistics was made it a bit tricky. We've just got a couple more questions here at the end. We do a little pop quiz with our guests, and you can make these as long or as short as you want them to be.
All right, mate. A couple of these I might know, but we'll see how we go. iPhone or Samsung?
iPhone, because it's what I'm used to. I don't know if it's better.
Strength or flexibility?
Strength.
Mate, I've trained at your gym. No shit. Pasta or rice?
Pasta or rice? Rice.
Guard pull or takedown?
You want the idealistic answer, or you want the realistic one?
I want the realistic one, Rob.
The realistic one, I was a guard puller my whole life, but I do stand by takedowns. Everyone should learn takedowns.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed of myself for not learning. Yeah.
You need to know them. You don't have to do them. There you go. Steak or chicken?
Steak.
Your preference, ghee or no ghee?
At the moment, ghee.
Yeah. What's your favorite belt that you've had?
Purple.
Why? Did we get purple a lot, Rob? We get it all the time. And it's it's definitely Kim's favorite. She said that. I am only a purple belt, so that is my favorite at the moment. So why purple for you, mate?
It's funny. I turned 44 about a week ago, and my coach, Paul Strecker, one of the coaches I've had, he was Thiago Stefanucci's coach as well. Thiago, and he wrote me a message. He sent me a message on Instagram, saying happy birthday. And I spent some time. I sent him a message about thank you. And I just want I don't know if I told you this before or not, but I was a purple belt under him. My purple belt years were all under him. And I said, I had the happiest years of my life under you, like training under you, and the family that you created and the environment you created. He created a very healthy competition culture in the gym. It was very unique. I've never been able to recreate it. I've tried to recreate it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how he does it. But he just created this brotherhood where you just wanted to compete every weekend for your friends, if not for yourself, for your brothers. You got and sisters. You had to be there for them. If not for yourself, you had to be there for them. And it was we would prank each other the whole way. It was such a happy time. It was happiest. I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate that. I was in heaven and I didn't know it. Like I had ups and downs my entire life, but that 2-year stretch, as a purple belt with Paulo they were the happiest years of my life, and I don't think I'll ever be that happy again.
That's cool. That's a good answer. I've only got a couple more, mate. You've been super generous with your time, so thank you. Is there anyone that you would currently like to either train against or would have competed against?
The only guy from my generation that I never competed against, and we were in the same bracket a few times, it just never happened. And it's really strange because we both competed a lot. We were in the same weight class, and we never faced each other. It was Romulo Barral.
Wow.
I never fought him. He's the only guy from my generation, because I fought everyone in my generation
Yeah.
multiple times.
Yeah.
There's not a single person in my generation I didn't fight at least a couple times. And Romulo Barral, we've been in the same bracket. We were in the same weight class. It just never happened. So I think him, just not for any personal reason, just because he's the only guy in my generation I never fought. I got to train with Marcelo Garcia the other day.
Yeah. Cool.
I would like to train with. I got a light roll with Braulio a few years ago. I like to train more with them. Guys from my generation, especially like Shanji, Roger. I trained with Boucher only once. I like to train with them more. I'm a different person now, man. I'm not trying to roll to win now. I'm in that transformation of jiu-jitsu as an end in itself. It doesn't have to have a winning purpose. I don't think young people should think that way. If in your 20s and you want to be a competitor, don't think, but my relationship to jiu-jitsu has changed, and I think that's normal and healthy.
Yeah, I see people of your generation now who were at that, that very, very high pointy end of jiu-jitsu, catching up, training together, and now it's not about winning, it's about enjoying, it's about learning, it's about the fun parts of jiu-jitsu. So it's awesome when we see those sorts of things happening. So that's really good. Two more, mate. Two more. First one, can you drive a manual car?
Oh yeah, that's how I learned. That's how I learned. I learned how to drive in Brazil. They don't have automatics in Brazil. Every car is manual. So that's how I learned. I have, it's been years since I've driven one, but I don't think you forget something like that. You get stuck in that traffic in Sao Paulo for 6 years of your life every day, and you're just going first gear the whole time. You don't forget that.
And then the last one, mate. Do you wear Crocs?
Oh hell no.
You're
Never.
mate. This is why we love you, Rob. This is why we
Never.
love you.
Never. You couldn't pay me enough to wear those things. Are hideous. I don't even like to be friends with people who wear Crocs. I'm questioning our friendship here, man. This is no, never.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, as we said, for giving up your time. You're a very busy man. We would have loved to do this in person, but anybody, if you are out in America, in Las Vegas, make sure you drop into Zenith, Rob Drysdale's gym. Very, very welcoming. Great training. And thank you once again for joining us and making this 300th episode so special. Do you want to do the wrap up for us?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Rob. And just to reiterate what Kim just said, if you are in Las Vegas, whether you're there for World Masters or another competition, or you're traveling through, the Zenith crew are awesome. And honestly, Rob, you are one of the most welcoming people at a gym. So don't worry about walking into these gyms like Zenith and being overawed or anything like that. Like, if you've never met Rob and you go up and you introduce yourself to Rob, one of the things that I always notice, mate, is you give one of the best hugs around. Like, you really mean it. If you give someone a hug, you mean that hug. So that's always really nice. And your gym is a super welcoming place, mate. And all the crew there are fantastic. So, as I said right at the start, mate, thank you for all you do for, not just your students, but us people who travel over and the jiu-jitsu community in general, mate. So truly thank you. And we appreciate it. You guys know the story. Like, rate, share, subscribe, leave a 5-star review on the podcast if you can. That would be really, really cool, especially for the 300th episode. And I'm going to just throw it over to Rob, see if there's anything else that you'd like to wrap up and say, mate, before we go.
Oh, I just want to thank you guys for the time. Thank you for the opportunity. Just repeat yourself there. If any of you guys are ever in Vegas, stop by the gym. I have an open door policy, and I'm always welcoming new people. Everyone's welcome. And it'd be good to roll with you guys in the future. And thank you for having me, and see you guys whenever I see you.
You're welcome back anytime, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Bye.